त्रैविद्या मां सोमपापूतपापाः यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाध्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देव भोगान् त्रैविद्या मां सोमपापूतपापाः यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाध्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देव भोगान्. The knowers of the three Vedas, Trividya Mam, drinkers of Soma, the herbal juice, purified of papas, that is sins, worshipping me by yajnas, the sacrifices, pray for passage to heaven. They reach the holy world of the Lord of gods. Te punya asadhya surendra lokam. Surendra lokam means the world of the Lord of the gods. Why do they reach there? Prarthayante. They only pray for that. And enjoy the divine pleasures of the gods. Deva Bhogan. They reach the holy worlds of the gods, enjoy in heaven the divine pleasures of the gods. So these set of verses, verses 20 to 28, he's talking about one attains what one strives for. What you strive, you get it. So the knowers of the three Vedas, yes, Gayatri Ma. The knowers of the three Vedas, the drinkers of Soma. So the Trividya, the knowers of the three Vedas, what you must only understand is those who understand right. Any difficulty? Right. So the knowers of the three Vedas here, the Vedas or the Upanishads contain the highest wisdom as we understand, and the Upanishads are the philosophical portion of the Vedas. But in the context when he says the knowers of the Vedas, here he's talking of the false seekers. They are not the real seekers. So the knowers of the Vedas, they get into the words. They are only caught up in the, like yesterday we were talking about, they're only interested in the literary beauty. They are caught up in the mere words of the Vedas. They are caught up in the mere letters. They don't get into the spirit of the Vedas. They don't not interested in the essence. They only seek knowledge but not wisdom. They merely memorize the verses. They become scholarly. They perform mechanical yajnas, as he says, yajnairištva, having worshipped me through many yajnas. So they perform various rituals, various practices. Again, they are mechanical. So if you get scholarly educated, you become philosophy professors. So I'm very concerned when we're going so heavily into the educational institutions. I don't want to develop a tag of a philosophy professor. because I don't want to be a mere professor of philosophy, professing many things, but I want to be different from the knowers of the three Vedas in the context. So it's not merely mechanical, it's not superficial. So they perform, once they perform all these rituals, he says, drinkers of the soma drink, symbolizing it is the end of the ritual. It's again a symbol of devotion, like you're given a tirtham or a prasadam after the ritual is performed. So you perform that ritual, you're purified of papa, means there are no mental agitations. Now, this is the cue. How are we interpreting all this? Here he says, pray for passage to heaven. Swargatim prarthayante. So their prayers, they are chanting the Vedas, they are performing the yajnas, they are doing all what they are doing only to get a mere passage to heaven. So 20 and 21, he is actually ridiculing those spiritual practitioners, those who abuse religion to gain limited goals. Those who abuse religion to gain a limited goal, 20 and 21 is ridiculing them. Like you go to a temple and the pujari asks your gotram, and you will rattle off not only yours, your wives, your children, your grandchildren, great grandchildren, all you memorize and you rattle it off. Result, you go on God only to bless you all, is it? Preferential. I feel one of the most suffocating thing is to do that. I feel so uncomfortable. First of all, I don't know my gotram. Even if I know, I feel uncomfortable to say it. Why do you have to personalize your prayer? Why do you have to personalize your offerings? You shouldn't. So these are the people who perform. Now, when you say passage to heaven, what kind of people are they? Now, because they are praying for passage to heaven, they reach the holy worlds of gods and then enjoy the divine pleasures of the gods in heaven. So the language is very strongly suggesting certain things. So what is the language suggesting here? Sanjay, I'd like to ask you, what is the verse? What is the language in the verse suggesting?
It's suggesting if you achieve what you ask for, whatever you're asking for, you'll receive. So if you're asking for something that is just limited to material gain, then you'll get that. You'll go to whatever you seek.
So that's yes, but then what is the verse exactly talking about when he says pray for passage to heaven? What kind of actions are these seekers performing? In fact, majority of the spiritual seekers fall into this category.
Ones that are just blindly following ritual or performing ritual, that kind of thing.
No, you need to get the cue from this statement. Pray
Okay.
for passage to heaven. When are you transported to heaven?
Oh, after death of this body.
Oh, thank you, sir. I thought before only. So you have cleared a lot of delusion in me, Sanjay. I was thinking tomorrow I'll be transported to heaven and I'll be brought back. Only after death, is it? I thought next year will be all heavenly for me. Sanjay, the word hell and heaven, as we have understood, as they are not realms of experience, but there's a state of experience. So it's a heavenly state, means it's a state of your mind, right? These are states of your mind, a direct consequence of your actions performed. So if you are going through hell, hell is nothing but a state of mental agitation, a life of sin. And the direct cause of that is selfish and egoistic transactions with the world create an agitation. Every time you interact with the world from your egoistic point of view, I am telling you, you fella don't know what you're doing. This is right, that is wrong. You go about pounding your ego onto the world is not interested in your advice. So shut up and mind your business. The world is not interested. It's going to throw back at you. So it's only going to cause you an agitation. So a selfish action produces hell, and unselfish action produces heaven. So whenever a seeker is interested and they talk of heavenly rewards and benefits, it is talking of a seeker who is performing all these various acts for a certain benefit in return with an unselfish motive. So the answer I was looking for is heaven is a product of unselfish sacrificial actions. So when you perform unselfish sacrificial actions, you get punya. Punya is heaven. Swargam. Swargam is heaven. Punya asadhya surendra lokam. So because you perform unselfish deeds, you get punya. But what is that seems to be straightforward. But what he's criticizing in a way is he is denouncing the spiritual practitioners approaching these scriptural injunctions. The next verse he talks of the word scriptural injunctions. Here he talks of the Vedas and the yajnas. The Vedas and yajnas are not to be performed to gratify your desires. You should not perform them with a motive. Why should you perform these yajnas? Why should you get to the Vedas? Their only purpose to draw you, you should be drawn to it, is to seek the highest, which is the self. So anything short of self-realization is abuse of religion, is what the strong message from this verse, from these two verses. It's ridiculous. So they go through the heavenly world, they exhaust the meritorious deeds, which are temporary, and they come back to the mundane world. The cycle of return. Often again, we keep hearing these concepts of those coming back to the cycle. So they only pray for passage to heaven. It should be very clear. The message is very clear. They're only enjoying the divine pleasures, that's all, of the gods. Next verse, again, it becomes much clearer. Okay, 21. Tetam bhuktva swargatim. Sorry. Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. Evam trayi dharma mano prapannaha. Gata gatam kama kama labhante. Te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam. Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. Evam trayi dharma manuprapannaha. Gata gatam kama kama labhante. They, having enjoyed the vast world of heaven, their punya, which is the merit exhausted, enter the world of the mortals, thus abiding by the injunction of the three Vedas, desiring objects of desires, they attain the state of going and coming. Now, this is very clear. This mantra is very clear. They, having enjoyed the vast worlds of heaven, having enjoyed, they've enjoyed the merits, their punya merit exhausted, enter the worlds of the mortals. Mrityulokam, Martyalokam. Martyalokam, Mrityulokam was the same thing. The world of death, world of suffering. Thus abiding by the injunctions of the Vedas. Injunctions again here refers to those who follow only the letter and not the spirit. Please share, ma. Those who just follow the mere letter of the Vedas and not the spirit, they go into the mechanical study. A very strong message for what you should not do. What you should not do is kama kamaha. The verse says kama kamaha means desiring objects of desires. With all the Vedic knowledge, if you're still desiring the objects of desires, what does it mean? Haresh, are you following, Haresh? He's saying desiring objects of desires. Kama, kamaha.
Yes, Guruji.
But they are abiding by the Vedas. They're following the injunctions of the Vedas. Means they are getting into the words of the Vedas. They utter the Vedic words and mantras. They perform the rituals. But end of it, what they're doing?
At the end, Guruji, they're not following the spirit of the Vedas. They're just following the tech. They're just following the knowledge, but not applying the wisdom to it.
They're not applying the wisdom. Certainly, so the wisdom is meant how when you apply the wisdom, what is the result?
The result is you are on a clear pathway to self-realization, and you are dropping the lower and constantly reaching for the higher throughout the passage.
Yes, the sign of wisdom is the lower desires drop away and the hold of desires drops. Means the desires don't hold you. You don't seek the desires or objects of desire in your pursuit. But here, these practitioners are desiring objects of desires. So what is the difference between a selfish person and an unselfish person?
A selfish person, Guruji, is A selfish person has agitations and sorrow for whatever actions they're performing, the end result. There's a motive behind it. So they get sorrow and
Sir,
agitation in their lives.
that a part of the agitation, even I don't see a difference between a selfish person running behind the desires and even an unselfish person also running behind the desires. But his difference is he is here using the religion as a means to fulfill his desires. I am using the route of spirituality and the Vedas and yajnas to satisfy my desire. I ask you, is this better, or is go directly and get what you want through the world? Get into the world, get what you want and enjoy it, rather than using religion as a means or via route to fulfill your desires. Though you may find yourself experiencing punya here, but you are abusing religion here. This is far worse than, don't quote me out of context. This is, I would say, better to be selfish than be this category.
Because this is a hypocrisy take. That's right, right, Guruji?
This is hypocrisy, correct. You are being hypocrite here. You are not being true to the very practice that you are getting into. No. Rather go into the world, be upright with it and say, I want to acquire and enjoy the world. Go acquire, enjoy and get done with it. That is a far more straightforward process than taking this. So majority of this category, that the objective is you and I don't fall into the category. It's not for us to sit in judgment over who are those. The point is, when you and I are into this path, let us only be true to the word and spirit. Let us not bring the malice of our hidden desire or agenda into the act and spoil it. If I bring my hidden agenda or motive into it, it'll spoil it all. So that should be the approach. That should be the objective. So anything prompted by a desire spoils it. So let not your desire for any limited reward. You should not be interested in anything limited. So the challenge is not to allow any other worldly thought into your action. That's the challenge. So whenever any motive comes, you got to keep dismissing it, pushing it. UK, very easy then, eh?
Guruji, it is a very difficult process because you have been conditioned to pray for something or ask for something whenever you're praying, whenever you're doing a good deed.
So you are not conditioned yet by the classes.
No, I'm in the process, Guruji.
Okay. In the process. So you're going through dehypnotization. Huh?
Yeah. It may take some time, but yes.
But it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
But if this thought is very strong, the moment you entertain any other motive, it should come and sting you.
Yes.
The very
yes.
thought of desire should come and sting you.
True. Yes.
But you are able to relate the difference, that
yes,
the shift between unselfish and selfless is a huge leap.
Yes.
It's a huge leap. And a true seeker takes that leap.
Yes, Guruji.
And this
Guruji,
is a challenge
even if it is,
for those.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Suppose you pray for somebody else. You're doing some ritual or yajna or something, but you are praying for somebody who is sick or somebody who is sick. Does it come under a selfish or unselfish?
You're praying because that person or that entity means something to you, no?
It can be a general, I mean, a person unknown to me also. And then,
see, again, there's still some kind of a motive, some kind of a binding. The whole objective is not to be bound.
Okay.
When you stand in front of the Lord or your prayer, there should be nothing that you ask for. Your thought should be as empty as if you are helpless, don't know what to ask or what to pray for.
Okay.
In fact, the Shastras talk of many stories and parables of great devotees of Lord who were helpless even when the Lord appeared and asked them, granted them
want,
boons
yeah,
and say,
yeah.
please ask you want what you
Yes.
want. And there they were helpless.
Yes. Yes.
Have you not heard of various stories
Yes.
and
Yes.
parables
Yes.
of great bhaktas? And here we are, even without Lord appearing, we are asking so many things. Imagine what would happen if the Lord were to actually appear in front of us.
That's why he's
Oh my
not
God.
appearing, Guruji.
That is why he's not appearing. He only appears to those who have no desires. Man minus desires equals God. As long as, so the desire or the motive spoils that purity or sanctity of that prayer or worship,
Oh, okay.
of that act itself. But
Okay.
we can't directly get there. So the objective is to constantly try and keep purifying that selfishness in the motive, or try to purify, make your actions more unselfish as possible.
Okay.
So only the impurities has to be constantly keep filtered.
Yeah.
When that process happens, then we come to a point of zero impurities. And these are the mantras that come and hit us hard and tell, don't just do it with an objective or a fruit in mind.
Yes. Yes.
The ultimate fruit you must have is fruitless. Ultimate desire is desireless. There is no fruit at all you want. Not easy, but that's only possible when we have the wisdom and the understanding is very strong. Then you can inject these thoughts. Otherwise,
Yes, Guruji.
we'll be swept away by the
True.
momentum which we have been operating.
True.
Okay, ma.
Yes, Guruji. Yes.
Setuji, you want to say something, Setuji?
No, this
Yeah,
one can express gratitude in prayer. Gratitude to the Lord.
What do you mean by that, sir?
Expressing thankfulness.
When you say thanks for giving me, not my neighbor, is it?
No.
Then what is thanks?
The,
Why do you have to personalize that act of providence? Has providence been impartial to you or partial to you? The providence is impartial. The providence looks at you and me and everybody the same way. So when I go and thank the Lord for what you have given me, am I not personalizing which providence has given universally? An ultimate standpoint, there is no thanking. Where there is true love, when your son comes and thanks you, thank you, dad, for the gift, you say, thanks. Is that you don't say that as a son, that as a father to the son, you say, why are you thanking me? I'm just doing my duty, man. It means you don't personalize that. You give it out of purest of love. You don't expect that thanks and sorry is destroying the purity of emotion. So if I were to go and thank the Lord for having given me and I'm being grateful to you, means I have personalized that act of providence. There is no personalization. God has provided equally to everybody. So no doubt I understand where you're coming from. I ought to be grateful, but I don't have to personalize that act, saying thank you for giving me. Again, there's a personalization. Somewhere down the line, I have been blessed, so I have to be thankful. So that kind of hidden personalization may happen. I'm just trying to do, one is a X-ray scan, other is an MRI. You see much more than what you see in X-ray. That's what I'm doing, sir. You are able to go deeper and say, why should I thank the Lord for what? Has he only chosen me in particular, other than from the rest? No, it's not that. So it is just a graceful acceptance. It's a silent acceptance that it's all the play of divinity, whether good or bad. So you neither you have to thank him nor blame him. It's all the Lord's play. So who am I to arrogate it as a receiver?
Guruji, why three Vedas, Atharvana Veda is not included in this? Or they say three.
Possible, sir. Possible.
Because Atharvana Veda is a mantric type.
I don't know. I chose not to find out. If you have a little further information, keep us posted, sir.
But specifically, three is being mentioned, word three, not four.
Even other texts recently we learned, isn't it? Where was it? Not here. Elsewhere in the Upanishads also we learned that he talks of only three Vedas, because one Vedas was compiled a little later. So
Because this
that could be the
Atharvana
reason.
Veda, all the rituals are for selfish reasons or to do damage to others. Like that.
But the Upanishads don't talk of it. The Vedas may talk of it. The Upanishads, like for example, the Mundaka Upanishad that we are studying is from the Atharvana Veda. The Upanishads talk of the highest. In fact, the Upanishad denounces the other parts of the Vedas. Every Upanishad. Upanishad is the end portion of a Vedic text. And the end portion of the Vedic text is denouncing the earlier chapters of the Vedas and say they are of the lower order. So that applies to all Upanishads. Okay, sir. Yes, Harish?
Guruji, I would like to further ask on Setuji's question about praying on gratitude. I had the same impression as him. So now that I know that we shouldn't personalize it, the reason for the gratitude, the intention is that to keep us constantly aware that we should not be selfish and arrogant. So to constantly show gratitude is to help us be less selfish in our heart and our mind, the intention of the gratitude. So we are not to personalize it as well, which I understand now. Then when we go and pray, what do we pray about, Guruji? What be the prayer constitute then? Should be
You don't
then
have
pray.
to.
Okay.
Your every day, every moment, every activity is one long chant, one long prayer. You don't have to be explicitly going and praying. Not required. You couldn't do it. But that act is an insignificant act compared to, okay, in a day, how long would you pray in your prayer room?
Just a few minutes at the very most.
Very most few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So what happens to 23 hours, 49, 50 minutes, rest of the day, what are you doing? Forgot? I am saying pray 23 hours, 50 minutes, then only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Every action you are acting in the best possible way, without any malice, without any motive, without any desire, without any selfishness. You are trying to be as unselfish or in fact selfless as possible. Isn't that a prayer?
It is. It
So
absolutely is.
the accent is to be how spiritual are you beyond the prayer hall, not in the prayer hall.
I completely understand. That is, yes. So then, Guruji, then when we go to the altar since our upbringing, since our childhood, after our shower, we go to the altar and pray. Then, while I totally understand and shall be practiced, then when we go to the altar as a ritual or a routine in the morning after our shower, what do we do over there, Guruji? We start the day with that.
You want me to tell you what I do?
Yes, Guruji. I mean, just for us
I do nothing. I am just blank. Be as mentally blank as possible. That's the best form of prayer. You will have no words to say. You may want to utter some prayers, you may chant some verses, but it is done as innocently as a child would do, with no malice, no strings attached, no motives attached to it. If you tell a child innocently to chant a prayer, will the child not chant the prayer because it has learned it? So just let that glory of the words flow. That's all. When you do your Gayatri mantra in the morning, when you do pray the sun god, am I asking something? Am I seeking anything?
No.
Am I seeking any specific blessing? Am I thanking the sun god? There's nothing. It's just the prayer. Let that prayer itself reverberate and has its own effect on you. That's all. Why should I have anything? Why should I ask anything? Why should I say anything? The prayer itself is such a profound means of connecting. Just let the presence of that prayer be felt. That's all.
You know what I just realized, Guruji? After you said this, going to a prayer has always been a motive, either to ask or to say thank you. Either way, there's a motive. Even to say thank you is a motive, so to speak. It just struck me like this. There's a motive. It's just so conditioned for so many years with this. So this has to be a very big paradigm shift in the thinking now, completely. Because I thought when Sitaji said about the gratitude, that was my complete belief. That was the right way to do it. Until the expansion of these discussions now, Guruji, it has to totally take another direction now, going forward.
Please do ponder. These are moments where it really strikes you. It strikes a chord with you. Do recap. Don't come to any conclusion impulsively. I know you're not, but it can be a profound thought which can bring about a paradigm shift to your approach to things. But as I've said, I always found it the most, sorry to use the word, the most ridiculous thing is to arrogate a prayer. And I find myself, the people are most selfish in temples and prayer halls. I'm sorry to say, people out who are not in the prayer halls, not in the temples and prayers, are a little bit more spiritual than people who are in the prayer halls.
Yes.
Half of you might stop following me, stop coming for classes. I am fine with it. 100% of you say denounce me and drop it. I am fine with it. But I'm telling what my candid observation is. I feel people most selfish. In the name of prayer and ritual, they are very selfish. Very, very selfish. Their egos are life greater than life. My father constructed this. I brought this from there. I did this. Man, is this what you're glorifying in the place of divinity? There's more glorification of yourself in that act. I don't want that prayer. I don't want that act where if my ego takes a precedence in that act, I don't want. That is anti-prayer. Prayer is meant to crush your ego. And in the name of spirituality, you're feeding your ego and I. Prayer is to become self-oblivious, non-utilitarian worship. This is true prayer, sir. I just remember the words I've often heard. Prayer is non-utilitarian, self-oblivious. Ramji, please help us understand these two words, sir. Self-oblivious, non-utilitarian. Prayer or worship are these two terms.
Non-utilitarian means it is of no practical use. And self-oblivious means it is making you unaware of your own self. You are oblivious to your own self. Means you are transferring the control to somebody else and you are not actually looking at your own self as the most powerful one, in the sense that everything lies within your own self, good, bad, ugly, happiness.
In fact, I would say self-oblivious means you are non-oblivious. You are not aware of yourself, the non-existence of
correct.
yourself.
You are not, yeah,
Means
you are
you don't,
ignorant of
I don't
yourself.
ignorant.
Oblivious
So
means you are ignorant of yourself. Yeah.
self-oblivious means non-existent. So you are non-existent in that prayer. That is true prayer. Non-utilitarian means there is no, you don't attach a utility tag, no
Okay.
utilitarian motive to that act. So non-utilitarian means there is no utility motive attached to an act and the state where you don't exist. That these two is prayer. Self-oblivious, non-utilitarian. I think these are two powerful punches of Muhammad Ali. One left hand, one right hand, finished. This is prayer. And after that, I will put namaskar and bow down.
But Guruji, this is, so that also brings us to the question, why one should do any prayer? And why one should do any idol worship? In fact, ever since I started attending your classes, I have been asking this question to myself. Why should anybody do idol worship? In fact, before we started attending your classes, we used to go to the temple every week. Now we go maybe once in 6 months or something like that. So it has happened automatically, not that we made an effort for that. But this question keeps coming, that why should we do idol worship? And why should we do this? Of course, we still do our morning prayers in the puja room here, but why should one do prayers and why should one do idol worship? I asked this question earlier once and you gave me some answer, but I'm not really convinced of that answer.
Sir, we are not denouncing idol worship. Please get that right, sir. We should not, I am not.
Okay.
Idol worship and temple worship caters to a certain bracket of spiritual seekers who are not able to attune to the formless reality, who are not able to attune to the higher states of spiritual perfection. They're not able to attune. So they need a point of concentration. That's about all.
But that builds attachment, sir. And that builds attachment. And once you build attachment, then you enter into all these selfish transactions with that attachment.
So, there are three types of seekers. One, go directly into the world to worship and seek the world. The second are those who come through religion and seek the world. The third, who come to religion to seek the self. I repeat, one is
who go to the world and seek the world.
Right. Second,
who go to religion and seek the world through religion.
Yes.
Third is who go to religion and seek the self through that.
Right. So those who go to the world to seek the world attain papa, selfish fellows. Those who come to religion,
they're honest at least.
They're honest, but yet they pay the price of being selfish and materialistic, which is papa. You will find there is no contentment, there is no happiness, there is only sin and agitation in the materialistic world.
Correct.
Right, sir? They pay the price. Innocently, though, they pay the price because they're only seeking the world. But superior to them are those who go to religion to seek the world. They're still seeking the world, but they have turned their attention from the world to the higher. So they have these gods and goddesses, these places of worship, these idols and various rituals. So they're divinizing their actions in a way. They will not go out without a tilak on their forehead. They would not start their day without a prayer or ritual. They would go through temples and idols and various worships. They go through that passage, but still kamaha, the desires have not left them. So they're still pursuing the desire. That's why I said majority of spiritual practitioners fall in the category of 20 and 21. Majority, 99%. of spiritual, and the spiritual percentage, only 1-2% of humanity are spiritual. 98% are material, right, sir?
Yeah.
1-2% of spiritual people. Of the 1-2% of spiritual people, 98% of them are abusing religion. So
Yeah.
very small percentage of people use religion for the object of religion, but there is no other way. So the religion was introduced, these gods and goddesses were introduced so that you will develop an attachment to this and relatively get less detached to the world. You said you get attached, but there is no growth without getting attached. At least when you get attached to the higher, that's when the lower attachments goes off.
Yeah. But
Sir,
many people use this also to as an insurance against pap. They know that they are selfish and they feel that if they do religious things or rituals and then go to God, it is an insurance against accumulating pap. That also people look at it as a.
No, this is not a perfect state. So they will be bound to imperfection. They'll be bound to shortcomings, because there is the absence of wisdom here. Those who perform this kind of worshipping the Vedas, they are only worshipping the Vedas by the words, not spirit. Only when you worship the Vedas in spirit, you gain wisdom. When you worship the Vedas in letters, you don't get wisdom. So you still pay the price of avidya, ignorance, desire, selfishness. Yes, that price is still paid.
But one thing is there, Guruji, that when you pray, just sorry for extending the argument, but when you pray, many people get psychological satisfaction that I have prayed and I will be looked after. Now, you might call this as lack of sufficient, confidence in self, and depending more on external controls. But that psychological assurance or confidence is also very important for humans to survive, because otherwise people will lose hope when they're in very difficult conditions, like when you are facing such situations. And sometimes people do that. They do get psychological satisfaction by praying. And when they pray, they will ask for some relief from their difficulties. So that is how they do get some, but that is just some, I think a large part of the population also does that when they're in difficulties. And most of the times everybody is in difficulty. So that is also one reason why people keep praying.
So thanks for answering yourself, sir. I was searching for an answer. I was searching for an answer and you answered yourself.
Yeah, correct. Now, when we saw some young mothers yesterday with their children who were either disabled by different, routes, whether it is deafness or autism or whatever it is, what is there for them? How do they have courage in life, and how do they go forward if they don't pray? Because when they pray, they do get that psychological strength that, yes, I'm praying to God and God will take care of me. He will take care of my difficulties. So sometimes, not sometimes, I think in that second category you mentioned, that where we do religion for selfish purposes, I think a lot of people do it for this purpose.
So this is where, in fact, your experience which you're quoting exemplifies what these two mantras are saying.
Yeah.
You are purely approaching God or a place of divinity only to protect you and your well-being. You're only doing it for your own selfish purposes, and that's, they find a certain hope in the Almighty or the power. But from a higher perspective, we see the shortcoming in that.
I know.
They may not see, and in fact, it may be not right for us to unsettle them there.
Yeah,
You will
correct.
say, yes, God will take care of you. God will take. Sometimes people say, please pray for me. My reply to them is, I pray for your well-being.
Mm.
Now, how can I tell somebody that I can't pray for you and my prayers
Right.
will not help you? How can I say that to that person? Because that person feels that that one word will help that person. So I say, I pray for your well-being. The emotional people, what else will they do? So they resort to that kind of a prayer or devotion or bhakti to give them that solace, that emotional solace. In fact, in the Gita, have we not learned, a section of people go to the Lord for emotional solace.
Yeah, correct.
Artha, when you look for artha, means you look for some kind of emotional benefit, emotional solace.
Correct,
There
correct.
are people who go to God for emotional solace because they don't have that solace within them. Now, as a seeker, I have got everything I want. Why would I ask God for anything? As Setuji said, I'm thanking the Lord. So why should I even ask for emotional solace? Why should I ask for anything? I'm contented. This is a quality of a bhakta. A bhakta is said to be totally contented, not having a want or a desire. So these are all anti-qualities of a bhakta. So he said, if I were to extend, I would recommend you all to go through the 35 qualities of a devotee of God in the 12th chapter, from verses 8 to 12. Verses 8 to 12 of chapter 2, the Lord gives 35 qualities whom he considers as his devotees. I may consider as a devotee of Lord Vishnu or Lord Brahma, but does Lord Vishnu and Brahma consider me as his devotee? That's important. But here he says that I consider such people who have these qualities as my devotees. And I'll congratulate yourself if you find one or two qualities in each one of us. If I have one or two qualities of the 35 qualities, I should congratulate myself. I am a true bhakta. Far from it, sir.
That is true,
Far
sir.
from it. And I'm not being cynical or pessimistic. I'm only trying to tell the depth of wisdom that we all have got at our hands. So this is where we have to rise beyond the categories mentioned in verses 20 and 21. Don't abuse religion to merely gratify your void which you feel within. Your personal void is not the objective of approaching religion. You set that right and come to God. Don't come to God to set it right. Then you are a true seeker. We are raising the bar. Don't expect the shastras to to lower the bar. It's like an Olympic games are going on, and that fellow who's running for that high jump, he says, "Sir, that bar is a little too high. Can you lower it for me?" If he were to lower it for you, he'll say you're disqualified, man. You come to the Olympics, which happens once in 4 years, and you say, "Please lower the bar for me." You go and play in your domestic or your locality, you go and play, lower the bar and play there. But this is the height it starts with. You see, so when we come to this knowledge, it sets a certain bar, and when people like us who have to get into the spirit of the text, we have no but obligation is to convey that spirit. It's like when you bite a sugarcane, you only have sugarcane juice in your mouth, sir.
Yes, sir. You won't get mango juice. Yeah.
You don't get mango juice, sir. So I am biting into the sugarcane juice here. So the sugarcane juice is spilling out, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Now I see a few comments here. Oshama is saying, unless you make a sincere effort, you'll not be able to get attached to the higher and give the lower. Absolutely right. Sometimes not praying causes guilt because it's seen as a departure from the norm. This is called attachment to the norm. We are talking of departure, you are talking of attachment. Right. Unless I've not missed anything more. Right. Yes, Hariji.
Guruji, you are telling that people who praise and for either selfish or unselfish reason for some goal, they are abusing the religion. How can we say that we are abusing the religion? Because the major portion of Vedas are only karmakandas, and they only prescribe do this, do this yaga. And during this, my question, I have to differentiate between yaga and yajna. All yagas have got some goal. You do Putragamishti yaga. That is the Veda itself is prescribing, and they prescribe all them. And if you want, if in your place, in your society, there is a drought, then you do this yaga for getting the rain. These are all prescribed in the Vedas only. And if I am going to practice what Veda has told me, Veda has indicated to me, then how can you say that I am abusing religion? I am taking Veda as my God.
Yeah,
Yes.
you are only conveniently taking part of the Vedas. You are
No,
not taking
no,
the
no.
entire. No, 1 minute, 1 minute. I've got. If you haven't completed your question, you can complete. But I thought I got the
Yes.
gist of what
So,
you're asking.
no, so to me, when we are doing yaga, we don't do all yajnas. Most of the things that we are performing is whether it is housewarming ceremony, whether it is foundation stone laying. We all call the pujaris and we do the pujas and etc. etc. I don't know whether we are abusing the religion by doing all this.
Sir, in the strictest of terms, the
Yeah.
very Vedas, as I've said, the end portion of the Vedas are the Upanishads, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
The Upanishads give the highest truths, which is they talk of self-realization. And the Upanishads denounce the earlier section of the Vedas with the Karma Kanda. So I am not talking about Karma Kanda to you, I'm talking about what the Upanishads are giving. So when I talk of the Upanishads, the spirit of the Upanishads is what is being captured in the Gita here. The Bhagavad Gita, these two mantras, if you independently stand alone read, it conveys this exact message which we are trying to drive home. That you are using religion to merely fulfill, you are chasing the objects of desires. Such people, kamaha, they are only seeking the desires. These are the people who come and go. Now, these are the words he's saying, gata gatam. So they are talking about being confined to the cycle of birth and death. You are being confined, you are a slave to the desire. Is this the objective of performing, approaching religion? From the highest standpoints of Vedanta, this is not right. So even though even the Vedas themselves accommodated different cadre of students, the Vedantic, highest cadre of Vedantic student is not recommended this. So we are only recommending the highest, and this is what the text in the context also is saying, sir. One can choose to follow convenient sections of the Vedas, but when you take a text, take its entirety and follow its entirety. But then we have to, you may keep to a certain tradition, certain norms. That's all right. We're not telling, that's why when I answered Ramji, I said there's nothing wrong. We're not denouncing our culture, not denouncing this idols or temple worship. We are not denouncing. Who am I? Who are we to do that? Please don't get me wrong. And I seek apology if that was the intention. There was no intent of that. That is not the study of this. In fact, it raises your acuteness, awareness. As when I told Harish, I said it's rather than worshipping 10 minutes in a day in your prayer hall, you worship 23 hours rest of the day. So I'm not telling him not to worship 10 minutes in the day. I'm telling worship 23 hours in a day. You think of the Lord, whatever form, whatever name, everything becomes one long chant of the Lord. So when I say that, don't tell me I'm telling not to pray. Don't get me wrong, please. So it's easy to misunderstand. So I am only saying what the highest Vedantic truths declare, which is to approach religion for the purpose of getting to the self. That is the only objective. If there is any other objective, there is a hidden motive or an agenda, it is not right. This is what the Shastras are saying. This is what the current text we are studying is saying. The current verse we are saying is exactly saying that. Therefore, don't approach it with any utility tag. Therefore, we said prayer is non-utilitarian, self-oblivious worship is prayer. So there is no contradiction. No doubt the Vedas are talking. The earlier Angas of the Vedas talk it. The later Anga, the last Anga of the Vedas denounces it. Take that part. You are not taking that part into account in your question. Please think about it, sir. Okay. Yeah, Setuji? Okay, what? Setuji, 1 minute. Hariji, yes, sir. Now, could you please unmute yourself first?
I have. By praying that, there is a sort of my surrender to a higher power. I have still not developed to assume that Aham Brahmasmi, though I am trying to, but I am only in that stage where I feel that there is a higher power. So I'm surrendering myself. So that gives me a sort of solace or strength to see that I am not the ultimate. There is somebody to whom I can surrender and he will take care of me. Rather than I become rajasic and I say that I can do everything and I am the person who can achieve everything by doing only finite work.
No, that is not the intent. That is not the tempo or the tone when we say what we said. It is not to give you, to make you all powerful and all knowledge and say you are. So we are just muting you currently. If you need to say,
No.
So it is not to make you egoistic and powerful. It is only to get into the true track of what is right prayer and who is a right sadhak and what's the right approach to the Shastras. So we are not trying to make you more powerful than God and things like that. Then you have to surrender. That's a fundamental of spirituality. You have to surrender. You have to have faith in the higher. But we are only saying, don't bring your limited ego and your limited pursuits into the pursuit of spirituality, because this path is only meant to give you moksha. No wonder in the history of humanity, we can count the number of people who have attained moksha. You know, there are 1 or 2 in a generation who attained that state. Otherwise, so many people are seeking it. But why is not everybody attaining it? It's like I am destroying my own spiritual effort because of my own desire or motive. So if you take a closer scrutiny to what is being said here, you understand what's spoiling our sincere effort is our own desire and personalization. Don't personalize the worship, don't personalize the effort. Try to remove that element of motive or desire from the pursuit. That's when it becomes selfless. All right, sir? Okay, right. Yes, Setuji?
This invocation what we give when for our classes and all, it is all about Brahman and self-realization.
All. Nothing other than Brahman. Do we have the translation of this current invocation? Of the Sahana Bhavatu, the invocation? Give the translation. Even Upanishadic translation, please give the Upanishad invocation also, both one after the other. If you read, you understand what they're talking. They're only talking of Brahman.
The prayer before we eat. That all. Yeah.
Oh, even the prayer before we eat. Yes, even that. I'm thinking of Brahman. So I'm not indulging in the food. I thank the Vaishwanara in me, which is the hunger which gives in me. You know?
And
So
this lot of in Bhakti Marga, a lot of saints are there, but all their songs is about about Lord. At the same time, they do thank the Lord. Their songs.
they are thanking the Lord without a personalization. Now, look at this invocation. It says, may He protect us both. May He cause us to enjoy. May we strive together for what? For realization. May our study become brilliant with what? With the goal of realization. May we not get into an argument. Ma vidvishavahaihi. Because there's such a dialogue, we should not miss the spirit of a discussion. So all the while the intention is to the goal of realization. I don't say anything other than that here.
You know, in this Tyagaraja song, Kabir Das and all, their names do come. Whether it has been inserted later, I don't know. But their do name come, it is personalized.
Sir, when these, like when Christ says, come to me, I am thy savior. Lord Krishna also in the Gita also, he says, come to me, I am thy savior. When they say come to me or I, they are not meaning themselves. They are meaning the Atman. And Tyagaraja said, Tyagaraja is singing, he's not saying Tyagaraja. In fact, it is personification of Lord Rama himself. Because he has attained the realization, he's attained moksha. So there is no individuality. The difference between a man of realization saying and I saying is there is ahankar in me. In them, there is no ahankar at all. There is no individuality at all. So they are looking upon themselves as a third person, completely indifferent.
Even Bhagavan Ramana is like that.
All these great men, when they said, come to me, it is not their personality. In fact, sadly, we are holding on to their personality. When Bhagavan Ramana says, come to me, he doesn't mean hold on to picture of Brahmana. He says, worship the self in me. When Lord Krishna says, come to me, he doesn't say you must worship the form of Lord Krishna. When Buddha says, come to me, it's not that I must put a life-size portrait of Lord Buddha in my house. It doesn't mean to hold on to the personalities. Huh? It means the Atman in them. It means the self in them. That's what Lord Krishna says in the Gita. Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Arjuna, I am that formless reality in all forms, he says. I am the kshetrajna in the kshetra. I am the reality in the form. So you worship the reality, not the form, he says. But yet we are holding on to the form. It's not the form. I must hold on to the spirit of the great Tyagaraja, not what Tyagaraja, not Tyagaraja. Tyagaraja has come and gone. But that spirit, what Tyagaraja conveyed, is what I should be trying to imbibe. So right now, what I'm trying to imbibe is the spirit of this Vedas, spirit of the message, not the text, not the words.
I shared once when Bhagavan Ramana, one of his assistant, Annamalai Swami, was holding on to him. He was in the last leg of self-realization. He makes him go away from the ashram. It literally throws him out. The idea is he doesn't want, if he is in his presence, he was getting attached to him. And he told him once in a way, I myself will come to you, you need not come here. And he used to go sometimes, but he made him stay away from the ashram.
I remember many a time you narrated that, and I can relate to it. You know, there is in no mean any comparison, but as you say this, I'm reminded of my little innocuous experience. You know, in 1995, 96, at that time, one day we all were playing cricket in the ashram. We all were playing cricket. Swamiji also was playing. So we all were having one afternoon. We had some guests from Bombay, so a cricket match going on. And as the cricket match was going on, Swamiji called me. I don't know, one was long off and he was in mid on, so he called me. He said, "Hey, Kavada." And I came running to him. He said, "Vinay, I don't know, what are you doing in the ashram?" I said, What, Swamiji? I'm studying, I'm doing in the ashram. What do you mean what I'm doing? Right now, somebody will replace you. You go to Lonavala. Lonavala is the next station, 10 minutes train, local station. You go to Lonavala. Whenever you get the next ticket to Hyderabad, pack your bags and leave. I don't think you need to stay anymore in the ashram. That was instruction I got that point. I left the cricket field, went to the station. Thank God the train ticket was available 3 days after that. So I had little time to digest. Man, this man says, pack your bags and go, and said, go and start lecturing, go and live outside. You're not required here. This place is not required for you. I couldn't understand why that man said that, why he did that. And all what it gave me is the wings of self-sufficiency. Perhaps he found that I don't need that. I don't need to be there anymore. No preparations. I was least expected. I was just 20 then. Least expected that I will be kicked out and say, get out. You don't need to stay here anymore. You can visit me once a year, that's all. But you don't need to come here. I said, go and live your life outside. So, and that was the only time I was tested, the first time I was tested in my life. When I came back to Hyderabad, I felt nobody wanted this knowledge. Sorry?
Maybe he was getting attached to you.
No, then he's not a guru then. A true guru will not get attached. I was getting attached to him and the place and everything. So it said, you don't need. And I didn't find, in a sense, I would say I was ready for that, Came back and started my sadhana. The real sadhana starts outside the ashram. Inside the ashram is just a comfort feeling. Everything is taken care of. There's no sadhana at all there. The real sadhana is outside. It's like a person who swims in a swimming pool. There's no swimming. A real swimmer can swim across the current, across the water current. If you can swim, you are a true swimmer. Anybody will swim in a pool of body. In a swimming pool, anybody can swim. That's my real perception. To real growth happened after the ashram. But the ashram environment groomed me and made me ready. So as you said, when the guru finds you, you don't need anything, he will say, get out, go on, move on, So a guru finds his own ways and means of trying to pull you out what you're attached to. So Ramji, this is what a guru does, So if a student is ready, it helps you. Otherwise, a guru sees whether the student can go through it. Otherwise, it will break the student. There's so many such episodes in my life. How, it all done in the right, looked in the right way, it helps you grow. Okay, sir. All right. So the spirit of these 20 and 21, as we have learned, that we should not use religion for anything other than the intended purpose of self-realization. Well, that is the highest state of an ideal student. Since we are far from being ideal, what we need to work on is be conscious and aware that wherever there is a hidden motive or an agenda that creeps in, you need to arrest it and try to get rid of that motive, and then get into the act, make that act as pure as possible, as selfless as possible. And that's when you and I will be liberated from this cycle of punya, of going and coming. Then we will not have to enter this world of mortality. You will be freed and you will get to the path of self-realization. Very unique and very powerful. I would suggest you all take a note of these verses, and they stand out, take a note. Okay, we'll come back. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.